Hey everybody, it's Stefan here on GenderqueerChat. Today we are talking about the DSM. They just came out with a proposed revision to the DSM, so it'll be the DSM 5 instead of 4, and they're basically taking gender identity disorder and not taking it out but changing it. So we're talking this week about the implications of those changes for genderqueer people and our personal opinions on that. So, let me see. Make it so you can hear me. Yes. Huh? Okay. So, yeah. Overall, I'll put a link over there to the proposed changes so you all can go on and read the information for yourselves. Also, if you go to the right-hand side of the page once you're there and register a username and screen and password, then you can go ahead and submit comments to the APA about the changes. So I would encourage everybody to do that because they really need to hear from transgender and genderqueer people who are the people affected by these changes. So, overall, my personal opinion is that gender stuff shouldn't even be in the DSM. I think it's really stigmatizing to be diagnosed with a disorder, even if they don't call it a disorder. It's in the diagnostic manual of whatever of mental disorders. So, I mean, just taking out the word disorder doesn't mean it's not a disorder anymore. But that's the first change, is that it's not called gender identity disorder anymore. It would be gender incongruence. Um, so I would consider that a positive change, even though it's not exactly what I would want to see. But that definitely is a step in the right direction. Some other positive things that I see from this is that it acknowledges alternative gender identities. In a lot of the language, it says, blah, 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 desire to be of the other gender or alternative gender identity or appearance. So it acknowledges that there isn't just strict male and female that you have to fit into, which is good because I know a lot of genderqueer people may be tempted to try to fit the strict transgender I want to be the other thing model in order to get hormones or surgery or whatever they want. But this broader definition of the gender incongruence, which basically means your outward gender appearance doesn't match what you inwardly feel your gender is. So you would fit that mold and be able to get the services that you need without fitting into this strict, true transsexual, whatever stuff. So that's definitely good. Another thing that's good is that it doesn't have that binary language anymore. It doesn't say, girls do this, boys do that, like DSM-4 did. So that is good. Another good thing is that basically there's an exit clause, an exit strategy that the gender identity disorder did not have. So basically, if you were diagnosed with GID, even after you fully transition to whatever you want to transition to, you still have gender identity disorder in your records, and that follows you around as a pre-existing condition if you ever have to get insurance or whatever. Technically, my letter says that I meet the criteria for a gender identity disorder. It doesn't actually say that I have it. So if I really needed to fight an insurance company, I probably could do that, which is good. But other people do not have that option at this time. And with the gender incongruence, whenever you feel that you've reached the level where your mind and your body are the same, they are congruent, not incongruent. um, then you basically don't have it anymore, which is good. Um, it won't be like following you around in your medical records, and it won't be, as stigmatizing. And it also leaves the door open if you don't, if you have undergone a transition and want to transition to something else somewhere along the line, then it's also something that you can use to say, okay, well, my mind and my body don't match anymore, so let's try something else. Um, so it gives a lot more opportunity for the patient and the therapist or the doctor or whatever to um, decide what's personally best for that person, instead of some lofty organization saying this is exactly what you have to do. So that is good. Along the bad things is that number one, it still is included in the DSM. So um, I consider that a bad thing because I think that gender identity should just be accepted as a natural variation in human beings, and um, not, labeled as a disorder or disease or whatever. Um, Another thing that I found, which I didn't realize was in the original or DSM or the DSM-4, was that it includes a section on sexual orientation. One of the questions in trying to decide whether you're trans in the DSM-4 is who you're attracted to, which is really, really wrong, because obviously we should all know by now that gender identity and sexual orientation are two separate things. They're kind of like, there's like the Venn diagram effect, but like they really have no bearing on each other, because one is who you are and the other is who you like. Um, and So I think it would be really awesome if they took that out completely, but they actually didn't in the DSM-5. Um, when you read under the rationale section where they try to explain why they made the changes that they did make, they touch upon this issue and say, it really doesn't matter in practice what sexual orientation you are, and sexual orientation can change throughout time or as you transition, blah, blah, blah. So basically, they have this whole paragraph about how it doesn't matter. And then they have a section that says, but it is of interest to researchers, so we still have it in as not as a diagnostic tool, but as a, for your information subtype kind of category. Which is really silly, because if it doesn't matter, then why are researchers interested in it? And especially since it has nothing to do with it. So I don't know. It just sounds like people are being nosy, and it is still a question when on their little list of questions for how has your gender been affecting you. Like, there is still a question on sexual orientation, which I think should be taken out since it has no bearing on your gender identity. Um, so yeah, that's really odd. Um, yeah. And so yeah, it's in the DSM, and it's under the category of sexual and gender identity disorders, and subclass of gender identity disorder. So even though they're taking out the gender identity disorder part from the actual name, it's still under that category. So I mean, it sounds like they're kind of like they're fixing the symptoms of this problem, but not the cause. And yeah, so they're like trying to be fancy with language, even though it doesn't work. But on one hand, there has been a push from trans people to keep it in there, because if it's in the DSM, then insurances will have to start paying for those services. Um, but I think that there's some way that it can be medical without being psychological, and I haven't really figured out how that would be. Because I don't want it in sort of like some manual of diseases either, because it's not that. I don't know. I think that overall, this new DSM is definitely a large shift in the right direction, but that it still needs work. So um, I would love everybody to go and read it for themselves and post your comments below or as a response video. So I will talk to you guys all later. All right.